This morning we will do a Bible study on Genesis chapter 38. Genesis chapter 38. Is there anyone who would like to come and read it for us? Yes, come. But come and read it from here. You can read it from yours or from mine, whichever is easier for you. Yes. There you go. The whole chapter.
So, reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 38. Judah and Tamar.
Just hold on a moment. Okay.
Mic test. Alright. So it happened at the time that Judah went down from his brothers and settled near a certain Adulamite whose name was Hira. There, Judah saw the daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua. He married her and went into her. She conceived and bore a son, and he named him Again, she conceived and bore a son, whom she named Onan. Yet again she bore a son, and she named him Shelah. She was in Chezib when she bore him. Judah took a wife for his firstborn. Her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, "Go in to your brother's wife and perform the duty of a brother-in-law to her. Raise up offspring for your brother." But since Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, he spilled his semen on the ground, and whenever he went in to his brother's wife, so that he would not give offspring to his brother. What he did was displeasing in the sight of the Lord, and he put him to death also. Then Judah said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, "Remain a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up," for he feared that he too would die, like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's house. In course of time, the wife of Judah, Shua's daughter, died. When Judah's time of mourning was over, he went up to Timnah to his sheep-shearers, he and his friend Hira and Adulamite. When Tamar was told, "Your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep," she put off her widow's garments, put on a veil, and wrapped herself up and sat down at the entrance to Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah. She saw that Shelah was grown up, yet she had not been given to him in marriage. When Judah saw her, he thought her to be a prostitute, for she had covered her face. He went over to her at the roadside and said, "Come, let me come in to you," for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. She said, "What will you give me that you may come in to me?" He answered, "I will send you a kid from the flock." And she said, "Only if you give me a pledge until you send it." He said, "What pledge shall I give you?" She replied, "Your signet and your cord, and the staff that is in your hand." So he gave them to her and went in to her, and she conceived by him. Then she got up and went away. Taking off her veil, she put on the garments of her widowhood. When Judah sent the kid by his friend the Adulamite to recover the pledge from the woman, he could not find her. He asked the townspeople, "Where is the temple prostitute who was at Enaim by the wayside?" But they said, "No prostitute has been here." So he returned to Judah and said, "I have not found her." Moreover, the townspeople said, "No prostitute has been here." Judah replied, "Let her keep the things as her own. Otherwise, we will be laughed at. You see, I sent this kid and you could not find her." About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law Tamar has played the whore. Moreover, she is pregnant as a result of whoredom." And Judah said, "Bring her out and let her be burned." And she was being brought out. She sent word to her father-in-law, "It was the owner of this who made me pregnant." And she said, "Take note, please, whose these are, the signet and the cord and the staff." Then Judah acknowledged them and said, "She is more in the right than I, since I did not give her to my son Shelah, and he did not lie with her again." When the time of her delivery came, there were twins in her womb. While she was in labor, one put out a hand, and the midwife took and bound on his hand a crimson thread, saying, "This one came out first." But then he drew back his hand, and came out his brother. And she said, "What a breach you have made for yourself." Therefore he was named Perez. Afterward, his brother came out with a crimson thread on his hand, and he was named Zerah. Here ends the reading.
Thank you. So, what's this reading all about? Another Tamar. And it's good to know it's another Tamar. It's not the same one. Huh? So the Tamar in 2 Samuel chapter 13 is not the same as the Tamar in Genesis chapter 38. It's another Tamar. It seems to be a problematic name, doesn't it? What is this passage about? Who are the players? Let's start there. We have Tamar. Who else do we have? You have Judah. Onan. Who? Okay, so there's a lot of people at play. And then there are personalities that are mentioned but not named. So for instance, we have a temple prostitute. Sheep shearers, son, daughter, brother. So lots of characters at play. What is this passage usually referred to for? Any idea? Have you heard this passage before? You haven't heard this passage before? Okay. Goodness me. Have you heard of the sin of Onan? No? Oh, you're very lucky. Very lucky. In many places, this is the passage that is used to describe the sin of Onan, and the sin of Onan is described as masturbation. Have you heard that? Now it's a bit more familiar. So the reason that we are going to look at this passage today is really to ask the question, what is the sin of Onan? And is there any biblical teaching about masturbation? So, the first question I have to ask you is there any masturbation in this text? He cast his semen on the floor. Okay. Is that masturbation? It can be.
Or you can be withdrawal.
Aha. So what do we call it if you withdraw and you have your orgasm on the side? You come on the side. What's that called?
Birth control.
That's called birth control. Absolutely. And it is, because it was used as a form of birth control. But we also call it coitus interruptus. Coitus is the act of having sex or making love, whatever you want to call it, and you interrupt it before the end. So you withdraw before the end, and you come on the side. Why? For birth control. So coitus interruptus. So in this passage, we have a clear image of coitus interruptus. We don't have any mention of masturbation. Because if you are going into someone, which is the terminology that is used in this passage, that is not by definition masturbation, is it? What is masturbation? You people need to speak up a bit.
In Tagalog, we call it sariling sikap. But in English, we understand that you do it by yourself. Oh. Do it yourself. Oh. Satisfying yourself.
DIY.
So, DIY.
What is this?
It's a hardware store. DIY. Masturbation is to do it yourself. What does that mean? Sorry? Someone said?
According to the dictionary, to touch or rub your own sexual organs for sexual pleasure.
To touch or rub your own sexual organs for sexual pleasure. Okay. So, is there any mention of touching or rubbing your own sexual organs for pleasure in Genesis chapter 38? No. So what we have in Genesis chapter 38 is we have a cultural and historical context which is very different from what we encounter today. In the cultural context of the time, you have this concept that a woman has a right to have a child because she becomes a full woman when she reaches motherhood. So she has a right to a child. This is the cultural understanding of the time. So I get married to you and we're going to try and have a child. And before I fall pregnant, you die. Culturally, it's okay because your brother has an obligation to make me pregnant. So the brother must make me pregnant, and the child that I carry will not be your brother's, but yours. Because it's a means of you having offspring. All right. So John and James are brothers. John dies before I can fall pregnant. So James has an obligation to make me pregnant, but the child that I carry will be John's, not James's. All right. This is the cultural context. Do you remember Jesus speaks about this as well? Jesus speaks about this because at the time of Jesus you have the Pharisees and you have the Sadducees. And the Sadducees don't believe in the afterlife. And because they don't believe in the afterlife, they're trying to catch Jesus out. And so they say to Jesus, a woman has 7 husbands. Right? And every time before she is able to have a child, the brother dies. And she then marries the next brother, and the brother dies. And she marries the next brother, and the brother dies. And eventually she has married all 7 brothers, and she has no child. So, in heaven, whose wife will she be? You remember they asked Jesus this question to try and trap him. And he says, you don't have a clue what you're talking about, because the life after this one is different from the life that we're living in now. So even in the time of Jesus, this cultural understanding is still there. There is still this cultural understanding. And this is not considered to be incest. This is considered to be the responsibility within a family. Now, in Africa, there are many groups of people who still practice this. So there are societies of people who have what we call widow inheritance. And the widow inheritance is there for a number of reasons. One of them is because it gives a protection and a security to a woman in a specific society. So, I get married to you, and there's the understanding that you're going to look after me for my lifetime. All the property belongs to you. I happen to be your property as well. But when you die, who's going to look after me? So your brother James inherits me. I'm part of the baggage. And your brother James can choose to engage with me fully as a wife, or simply take responsibility for looking after me. But there's this concept in various communities in Africa of widow inheritance. So we still see the type of thing, the cultural context that we see here in this passage from Genesis chapter 38. And it's important for us to understand that cultural history when we unpack this Genesis chapter 38 passage. Because otherwise it might seem very strange to us. Why is it that Tamar is running around trying to have sex with the men in this family? Is there something sick about her? She gets married to the first brother, dies. And then in terms of the cultural practice, she then has a right to be made pregnant by Onan. And Onan, the passage tells us very clearly, has every understanding that the child that is born will not be his. It will be his brother Er's child. So what does Onan do? Onan performs coitus interruptus. In other words, the sin of Onan is the sin of pleasuring himself without considering the woman that he's with. He is having sex with a woman, but he is all about giving himself satisfaction and not giving her what she wants. That's the sin of Onan. That's the sin of Onan. But that's not masturbation. We go on in the passage that when the younger brother, Onan's younger brother, had grown up, he was not given to Tamar to make her pregnant. And that's why Tamar goes and has a child instead with her father-in-law. She tricks him. She dresses like a temple prostitute. Again, it seems absolutely normal to Judah. If you have a sexual urge, fulfill it. Do something about it. And so he goes and he pays a temple prostitute. He has his little something on the side, and Tamar falls pregnant. Now, can you see that there's also expectations of Tamar? Tamar is expected to remain pure for that family. So when Judah finds out that Tamar is pregnant, his first assumption is she's gone and had sex with someone else's family. Once she's married into this family, she must have sex only with this family. You know, this is the cultural understanding. So when she falls pregnant, Judah says Tamar must be put to death. But when he finds out that actually she's done what is required in terms of being able to have a child by his family, he says, oops, okay, she's right, I'm wrong. The interesting thing about Tamar is that Tamar is then mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus. And so this story feeds through into the genealogy of Jesus. And the fact that Judah, who is way down the family tree for King David, is then the father of Tamar's son, makes Tamar one of the women that is mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus. So, question number one again. Is there any masturbation in the story? No. We see instead coitus interruptus, and what we can say without any question is that this passage, and while there may very well be a sin of Onan, that sin of Onan is not about DIY, it's about coitus interruptus, it's about not taking women seriously. That's the sin. It's about not taking your partner seriously. Now, you might ask, isn't masturbation about not taking your partner seriously? You might want to ask that question. And I would say to you, probably not. And the reason is this, that in any relationship, different people will have different sexual appetites and different sexual needs. And I might have a very fulfilling relationship with my partner, but one of the aspects that is fulfilling or is not fulfilling is our sexuality. So we have sex, we enjoy our sex, but my partner has less of a sexual desire than I do. So, from time to time, maybe in the presence of my partner, maybe outside the presence of my partner, I can masturbate. Because then I am remaining faithful to my partner, and we are able to deal with my sexual appetite that is greater than my partner's. In the case of some marriages, you will also find that the wife is not sexually satisfied by the husband. Maybe because they don't have time when they're making love to take both bodies into consideration. And then it would be absolutely natural for the woman to masturbate, to also have sexual pleasure. Because sexual pleasure is part of who we are. We are sexual beings. When God created me with a penis that was for more than peeing. My penis is also a sexual organ. And when God created woman with a vagina, there's more than one hole in the vagina. One is for urinating and the other one is for sexual pleasure. They're both there and God created them. So you cannot say the one is good and the other one is not. They are both created by God, and they are both to be used for God's glory. So, one of the things that I want us to do today is we're going to split up, and we're going to have a group on this side, which is all the men, and on this side we're going to have all the women. And then Alma is going to take the group of men, and Jessica is going to take the group of women, and we're just going to talk a little bit about sex, and your experience of sex, and your expectation of sex, and about what you consider sex to be. When does a boy have his first erection? A little child still. Babies. Boys have their first erection in their mother's wombs. Because it's a natural thing. It's not unnatural. And for anybody to tell you that it's unnatural is wrong. It's who your body is made to be. Now the reason I mention about a boy's erection is because that's a very obvious one to see. It's not so easy to see when a woman is aroused in the same way. But women also experience arousal from a very early age. So in a way that is safe for both of you, we're going to talk about that. It's now 8:10. So what we're going to do is we're going to break for breakfast. And after breakfast, we will have this discussion and come back and report. Okay? Happy?
Wow.